My name is Liang Xinye. For most of my childhood, I believed that if I remained gentle, worked hard, and never complained, my family would eventually love me again. I was wrong. But before I understood that truth, I spent years standing outside doors that would never open for me. The Liang residence had once been a place of warmth. When Xinwei was still a child, lanterns glowed beneath the curved roofs, servants moved through the courtyards with cheerful voices, and the scent of plum blossom tea drifted from her mother's room. Her mother, Lady Su, had been a quiet and graceful woman. She taught Xinwei how to hold an embroidery needle, how to identify flowers by their scent, and how to remain kind, even when others were not. Every stitch leaves a mark, her mother once told her, even the ones hidden beneath the cloth. At the time, Xinwei had laughed. Then I will make sure all my stitches are beautiful. Her mother smiled and touched her cheek. No, my child, make them honest. Beauty without honesty does not last. Those words remained with Xinwei long after her mother was gone. Lady Su fell ill during a bitter winter and died before the first plum blossoms opened. Xinwei was only 9 years old. Her father, Liang Jian, mourned deeply at first, but grief soon became silence, and silence eventually became loneliness. Less than a year later, he married Madame Wei, a widow with a daughter named Mei Lin. Mei Lin was 1 year younger than Xin. In the beginning, the two girls were close. They ate sweets beneath the osmanthus tree, shared ribbons, and slept in the same room during thunderstorms. Mei Lin would cling to Xianyue's sleeve and whisper, "Elder sister, promise you will never leave me." And Xianyue would smile, "I promise." But promises made by children are often broken by the fears of adults. Madame Wei never openly showed cruelty at first. Her kindness disappeared slowly, almost carefully. She began by replacing Xianyue's silk robes with older clothes. Then she dismissed the maid who had served Xianyue since birth. Later, she moved Xianyue from the eastern courtyard into a small room near the servants' quarters. Whenever Liang Zhan returned from business, Madame Wei greeted him with tears. "Xianyue does not accept me," she would say. "I have tried to treat her as my own, but she resents Mei Lin." Liang Zhan would look at his eldest daughter with disappointment. "Why can you not be more considerate?" Xianyue tried to explain. "Father, I did not—" "That is enough." Those 3 words became the wall between them. I still remember the first time my father looked at me as though I were a stranger. I wanted to run to him and hold his sleeve the way I did when I was little. But Madame Wei stood beside him, and Mei Lin watched from behind her mother. So I bowed. "Yes, father." After that, I learned that silence was safer than truth. As the years passed, Xianyue was given more work. Before sunrise, she swept the courtyards, prepared tea, washed clothes, and helped in the kitchen. At night, she repaired garments by candlelight. Meanwhile, Mei Lin received lessons in music, poetry, and etiquette. One winter evening, Xianyue returned from the market carrying a basket of vegetables. Snow clung to her hair and shoulders. As she entered the main hall, she saw Mei Lin dressed in a pale blue robe embroidered with silver cranes. It had belonged to Xianyue's mother. Xianyue stopped. "That robe." Madame Wei turned calmly. Mei Lin needed something suitable for the banquet. Xianyue paced the basket down. "It belonged to my mother." Mei Lin looked away. Madame Wei's voice hardened. "Your mother is dead. A robe should not be wasted on memories." Xianyue walked closer and reached for the sleeve. "Please, you may take anything else." Madame Wei slapped her hand away. "Do not embarrass yourself." Mei Lin finally spoke. "Elder sister, it is only a robe." Only a robe. I wanted to tell her that it still carried the faint scent of sandalwood my mother used. I wanted to tell her that I had pressed my face against that sleeve the night my mother died. But I said nothing. That night, I cried without making a sound. Despite everything, Xinye did not hate Mei Lin. Somewhere in her heart, she still remembered the little girl who had once feared thunder and held her hand in the dark. But Mei Lin had changed. Madame Wei often reminded her daughter that Xinye was the legitimate daughter of the Liang family. As long as she remains, Madame Wei whispered, everything truly belongs to her. Mei Lin began to see Xinye not as a sister, but as a shadow, standing between her and the life she wanted. Years later, when both daughters reached marriageable age, the Liang family received an unexpected visit. The Shen family, one of the wealthiest merchant households in the region, sent a formal proposal for Xinye. Their eldest son, Xin Yuchen, had seen a ceremonial robe embroidered by Xinye for a temple festival. He had asked who created the delicate peonies along its sleeves. When he learned that the young woman was not only skilled, but also known for helping servants and poor families, he asked his parents to consider her. The marriage proposal arrived in a red lacquered box. Madame Wei opened it before Liang Zhen returned. Mei Lin stood beside her, breathless. "Mother, it says Liang Xinye." Madame Wei remained silent for a long moment. Then she folded the letter. "Names can be changed." Mei Lin looked frightened. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that heaven has placed an opportunity in our hands." "But it belongs to elder sister." Madame Wei turned sharply. "Do you wish to spend your life bowing to her?"
That evening, I confronted Mei Lin beneath the osmanthus tree. She wore the red wedding bracelet sent by the Shen family. "Did you know?" I asked. Mei Lin froze. "Know what?" The proposal was mine. Her face turned pale. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then she whispered, "Mother said it was better this way." "Better for whom?" Mei Lin's eyes filled with tears. "You do not understand. You have always had everything." I almost laughed. Everything? I looked at my worn sleeves, my cracked hands, and the room I was no longer allowed to call mine. "What do I have, Mei Lin? You have father's blood. You have your mother's name. Even when you are treated badly, everyone still knows you are the true daughter." "Then take the name," I said. "Take the house, take the jewelry. But why did you take a life that was offered to me?" Mei Lin's voice trembled. "Because I was afraid that if I did not take it, I would never be chosen." Xinyuel looked at the sister she had once protected from storms. "And did you ever think about what would happen to me?" Mei Lin looked away. That was the answer. Xinyue could have exposed the deception. She could have shown the torn document to her father and demanded justice. But scandal would have ruined both families. The Shen household might have rejected Mei Lin publicly. Her father's reputation would have collapsed. So Xinyue remained silent. On Mei Lin's wedding day, drums echoed through the streets. Red silk covered the gates. The bridal carriage waited beneath strings of lanterns. Before leaving, Mei Lin entered Xinyue's room. She held an embroidered handkerchief Xinyue had made for her years earlier. "Elder sister," Xinyue continued folding clothes. Mei Lin swallowed. "Do you hate me?" Xinyue's hands stopped. "No." Mei Lin looked surprised. Xinyue turned toward her. "But one day you may hate yourself." Mei Lin's eyes filled with tears, but voices called her from the courtyard. She left without another word.
The stolen marriage should have been the end of Xinyue's suffering. Instead, it was only the beginning. Weeks later, Madame Wei's jade hairpin disappeared. She accused Xinyue immediately. The missing hairpin was found inside Xinyue's storage chest. Xinyue stared at it in disbelief. "I have never seen this before." Madame Wei began to cry. "I treated you as my own daughter. How could you steal from me?" Liang Zhan's face darkened. "Have you brought so much shame upon this family?" "Father, someone placed it there." "Enough!" Xinyue stepped closer. "Please listen to me, just once." Liang Jian turned away. "I have listened to your excuses for years."
Those words hurt more than the accusation itself. Xinyue looked at the man who had once carried her on his shoulders through the spring market. "You never listened," she said quietly. The room fell silent. Liang Jian ordered her to leave before sunset. Madame Wei allowed her to take only a small cloth bag, her mother's jade pendant, and a few copper coins. The money was enough for 3 days of food. When the gates closed behind me, I did not cry. I thought tears belonged to people who still had somewhere to return to. I walked until the Liang residence disappeared behind the trees. Only then did I realize that I had spent half my life trying to earn love from people who had already decided not to give it. That night, Xinyue slept beneath the roof of an abandoned temple. The wind entered through broken windows. She wrapped her arms around herself and listened to the rain strike the stone courtyard. On the second day, she bought a small bowl of noodles. On the third, she purchased a steamed bun and divided it into 2 meals. On the fourth morning, she had nothing left. At the market, she stood before a jewelry merchant and held her mother's pendant in her palm. The merchant examined it. "I can give you 20 silver pieces." It was enough to survive for months. Xinyue stared at the pendant. She remembered her mother fastening it around her neck. "Whenever you feel alone, hold this and remember that you were loved before you understood the meaning of the word." Xinyue closed her fingers. "I am sorry," she told the merchant. "It is no longer for sale." She left the shop, hungry.
Near the Eastern Market, an elderly woman named Madame Zhao was arguing with a customer over a damaged robe. "The wedding is tomorrow," the customer cried. "This tear cannot be repaired." Madame Zhao looked exhausted. Xinyue stepped forward. "I can mend it." The old woman frowned. "With what experience?" Xinyue looked at the torn silk. "Give me 1 hour." Madame Zhao reluctantly handed her the robe. Xinyue sat in the corner of the shop and began working. Her fingers were cold and weak from hunger, but the needle moved with the certainty her mother had taught her. She covered the tear with the branch of a plum tree, turning the damaged silk into part of the design. When the customer returned, she gasped. "It is more beautiful than before." Madame Zhao studied Xinyue. "What is your name?" "Liang Xinyue." "Do you have family?" Xinyue hesitated. "No." The old woman placed a bowl of rice before her. "Then eat first. We will discuss work afterward." That bowl of rice saved more than my body. It reminded me that kindness could come from strangers when it had failed to come from blood. Xinyue began working in Madame Zhao's small embroidery shop. She repaired sleeves, stitched wedding veils, and embroidered flowers onto plain garments. She slept in a small room behind the workshop and saved every coin she could. Months became years. Madame Zhao taught her how to negotiate with silk merchants, calculate costs, and recognize dishonest customers. One evening, the old woman watched Xinyue sketching a new pattern. "You are too talented to spend your life repairing other people's work." Xinyue smiled. "I owe you everything." "You owe me nothing. Gratitude is not a chain." Madame Zhou pushed a wooden box toward her. Inside were silver coins. Xinyue stared. "What is this?" "Your wages, the ones you refused to take properly." "I cannot accept it." "You will accept it. Open your own shop and prove that I did not waste my old age teaching you." With those savings, Xinyue rented a narrow store near the market. She named it Spring Thread Embroidery House. At first, customers were few. Some merchants mocked her. "A woman without a husband cannot manage a business." Others tried to underpay her. But Xinyue refused to surrender. She created garments unlike anything the town had seen. Her designs carried mountain mist, falling blossoms, cranes in flight, and rivers beneath moonlight. More importantly, she treated her workers fairly. She hired widows, abandoned wives, poor girls, and young women who had nowhere else to go. One of them was a 15-year-old orphan named Lian. "I do not know embroidery. Neither does a needle until someone guides it," Xunyue replied. Slowly, spring thread became known throughout the region. Customers began arriving from distant towns. Wealthy families commissioned wedding robes. Officials ordered ceremonial garments. Traveling merchants carried Xinyue's designs toward the capital. 5 years after she had been cast out, Xinyue stood inside a 3-story embroidery house filled with dozens of workers. They called her Master Liang. During a silk negotiation, Xinyue met Shen Zichen, a merchant from the capital and a younger cousin of Shen Yuchen. He arrived expecting to meet an elderly master embroiderer. Instead, Xinyue entered the room in a simple ivory robe. Zichen blinked.
You are Master Liang? Xinyue sat across from him. You sound disappointed. No, only unprepared. For a woman? For someone younger than me. Xinyue raised an eyebrow. Then perhaps you should prepare more carefully before business meetings. For the first time, Zichen laughed. Their partnership began with disagreement. He believed she should expand quickly into the capital. She believed growth without control would harm her workers. Profit requires risk, he told her. And responsibility requires restraint, she replied. They argued over prices, transport routes, and silk quality. Yet Zichen never dismissed her opinions. He listened. When he disagreed, he explained why. When she proved him wrong, he admitted it. Respect grew before affection. He began staying longer after meetings. Sometimes they drank tea beside the window while the workshop quieted below. One evening, Zichen noticed the scars across Xinyue's fingers. Do they still hurt? She looked down. Only when it rains. He gently placed a small jar of healing balm beside her. I passed a medicine shop. You crossed half the market. It was still on the way. Xinyue smiled. You are a poor liar. So I have been told. For the first time in many years, I began to imagine a life beyond survival. Zichen did not ask me to forget my past. He did not tell me that suffering had made me beautiful. He simply stood beside me and treated my wounds as something that should never have happened. Meanwhile, Mei Lin's stolen life was collapsing. Shen Yuchen had once been charming and ambitious, but after marriage, he became careless. He spent nights in gambling houses, drank heavily, and kept company with courtesans. Mei Lin waited alone in the Shen residence while debts accumulated. One night, Yuchen returned drunk. Where have you been? Mei Lin asked. He pushed past her. Do not question me. The household accounts are empty. Your mother has begun selling jewelry. Yuchen poured more wine. Then sell yours. Mei Lin stared at him. You promised me a life of honor. He laughed bitterly. And you promised to be the virtuous woman whose embroidery impressed my family. Mei Lin froze. Yuchen turned toward her. You thought I never discovered the truth? Her face drained of color. You knew? I knew after the wedding, but by then, exposing you would have shamed the entire Shen family. Mei Lin's voice broke. Then why did you stay? Pride. He lifted the cup. And now I have very little of that left. As the Shen family's wealth disappeared, news of Xinyue's success spread further. Mei Lun saw women wearing spring thread robes at banquets. She heard officials praise Master Liang. She learned that Xinyue was preparing to open a branch in the capital with Shen Zichen. Jealousy returned like a fever. She took everything from me, Mei Lin told her mother. Madame Wei, now older and more anxious, replied, Then take it back. Mei Lin bribed a silk supplier to deliver damaged fabric to Xinyue's workshop. She paid merchants to spread rumors that spring thread used cheap dye. She secretly copied Xinyue's newest designs and sold them at lower prices. For several weeks, customers withdrew orders. Workers became frightened. Lian approached Xinyue. Master, should we close until the rumors pass? Xinyue looked around the workshop. No. What if we lose everything? Xinyue remembered standing outside the Lian gates with 3 days of food. Then we rebuild. But we do not hide. She invited customers to inspect the workshop. She opened the storage rooms, displayed the silk records, and allowed independent merchants to test every dye. Zichen traced the false shipments back to Mei Lin's agents. Madame Zhao found the merchant who had been paid to spread the rumors. The truth reached the entire prefecture. Mei Lin was summoned before the merchant guild. Xin Yue stood across from her in the public hall. The sisters had not seen each other in years. Mei Lin looked thinner. Her fine robes were faded. Anger and humiliation filled her eyes. "You always win," she said. Xin Yue shook her head. "No, I survived. You have wealth, respect, and a man who loves you. And you believe those things were handed to me?" Mei Lin's eyes filled with tears. "You do not know what I suffered in that house." Xin Yue's voice softened. "I know more than you think."
Then help me. The hall became silent. Mei Lin stepped closer. Tell them to forgive me. Tell them we are sisters. Jinyu looked at her for a long moment. I will not ask them to destroy you. Hope appeared in Mei Lin's face. But I will not lie to protect you. The hope disappeared. You promised you would never leave me, Mei Lin whispered. Jinyu remembered 2 little girls hiding beneath blankets during a storm. I did not leave you, she said. You chose a road I could not follow. Mei Lin lowered her head. For the first time, she understood that Jinyu's mercy was not the same as surrender. The guild ordered Mei Lin to repay the merchants she had harmed. She was not imprisoned, but her reputation was ruined. Soon afterward, Shen Yuchen abandoned the remains of the household and disappeared with another woman. Madame Gall returned to the Liang residence with her daughter, only to discover that Liang Jian had learned the truth. An old servant, dying from illness, confessed that Madame Gall had ordered him to hide the jade hairpin in Jinyu's chest. The original marriage document was also found among her belongings. Liang Jian traveled to Spring Thread Embroidery House. He stood outside for a long time, watching women enter and leave with bundles of silk. Inside, Jinyu was guiding a young apprentice. Do not pull the thread too tightly, she said. A flower needs room to breathe. A worker approached. Master Liang, an elderly gentleman is asking for you. Jinyu turned. Her father stood near the entrance. He looked smaller than she remembered. Jinyu, he said. She had imagined this moment many times when she was younger. In those dreams, she ran into his arms. He apologized. Everything returned to the way it had once been. But years had changed the meaning of home. Liang Jian lowered himself to his knees. I failed you. Jinyu's expression remained still. I believed every lie. I cast you out. I do not deserve your forgiveness. She walked toward him and helped him stand. Do not kneel. Tears filled his eyes. Can you call me father again? Xingyu looked at him. I can forgive you. His face lifted. But forgiveness cannot return the years we lost. He began to cry. Xingyu's voice trembled, but she continued. I waited for you to protect me. I waited until I had nothing left. The daughter who needed you remained outside those gates. She is not here anymore. Liang Zhen covered his face. I am sorry. I know. It was the only comfort she could give him. Before leaving for the capital, Xingyu visited her mother's grave. She placed a folded piece of her finest silk before the stone. Mother, she whispered, your daughter finally learned to make honest stitches. Zichen waited at a respectful distance. When she returned, he offered his hand. Are you ready? Xingyu looked toward the town. Spring Thread would remain under Madame Zhou and Lian's care. The women she had trained gathered near the road, wiping tears from their faces. Lian Zhen stood among them. Further away, Mei Lin watched from beneath an old tree. Their eyes met. Mei Lin did not approach. She simply held the embroidered handkerchief Xingyu had made for her as a child. For a moment, Xingyu saw the little sister she had once loved. Then the moment passed. I left the town at sunrise. People later said I departed as a successful merchant, a respected master, and the future wife of Shen Zichen. But that was not how I saw myself. I was still the girl who had once counted 3 days of food beneath a broken temple roof. The difference was that she no longer frightened me. She reminded me of how far I had walked. The carriage began moving. Zichen sat beside me. "You can still change your mind," he said. Xingyu looked ahead toward the road leading to the capital. "No. Will you miss this place?" She glanced back one final time. "I will miss the people I wished they could have been." Zichen did not answer. He simply reached for her hand. Behind them, the town slowly disappeared into the morning mist. Xinye did not leave with revenge in her heart. She did not leave because every wound had healed. Some wounds remain. Some apologies arrive too late. Some sisters love each other only in memories. But Liang Xinye had learned that a stolen destiny was not the end of a life. A person could begin again. A woman cast out with nothing could build a home with her own hands. And sometimes the family one creates through courage, loyalty, and kindness becomes stronger than the family connected by blood. My name is Liang Xinye. They once took my home, my marriage, and my place in the family. For years, I thought they had taken my future, too. But destiny was never something they could give me. It was something I had to stitch for myself.